What's up, everybody? This is Younglord, and today we're going to talk about the fear of the flip. Now, this video is strictly for real estate investors, home flippers, whatever you want to call it. This is for you. If you're not one of them, then you can skip the video now. The fear of the flip is a real thing. I've been flipping houses for like the last 10 years. I've done tens of deals. I've never lost money on any deal. And I still feel a little tiny fear before I go forward with the flip. I thought about it and I wanted to find out where the fear was coming from. And I realized that it wasn't coming from the knowledge, because I do this. Like, it's not that deep after you do it a few times. It's the same process. Then I realized that there's so many other fears that come into play that come into my mind. One thing that's cool is when I first started, I always kept a journal. Now, I'm good for keeping a journal. I have journals from when I was in high school. I would just write down notes and jot down ideas and tips and tricks and just things that would happen to me in life, and that would allow me to kind of go back if something happened or if something didn't happen. I can try and diagnose what the problem was. So I went through some of my notebooks to see what was some of my fears when I first started flipping, and I want to go through some of that with you today. By the end of this video, you should be able to kind of figure out your fears and knock them out, because this is a business. This is a good business that makes money. If you do it right, you will not lose. If you do it right, if you have the right information, of course, but you're still gonna feel that fear, and you just have to be able to feel that fear and do it anyway. So if you guys feel any the same way or felt any the same way, jot that down in the comments and let's talk about it. Okay, my first fear was, will somebody buy this house? Oh man, listen, will somebody buy this house? That was a real fear. So to combat that, I had to make sure that I purchased in a neighborhood that was a good neighborhood, period. So I would drive around. Is this some place that people want to live at? Is it some place that people have children around? So just to make sure that the area is good, because as a flipper, we can change things in the house, but we can't necessarily change the area, So my first flip was in a town called Elmsford, New York, which is about maybe 10 minutes from White Plains or about 30 minutes from New York City. I drove around the area, and one thing I liked about this particular house that I was looking at buying was there was a big park in front of it. And I was like, okay, somebody would want to use this park. This will be a benefit for us. So I was like, okay, cool. Then I realized that there was shopping nearby. It's like, okay, that works. Then there was a police department a few blocks away. So I was like, okay, that will help with the safety. And there was a major highway that wasn't too far so that people can, go where they gotta go. And there was a Home Depot 10 minutes away. So I said, that's a big plus, especially just beginning to flip. I was going to be buying a lot of stuff from Home Depot. So I knew I needed to get there. So, all right, all of these things added up. Okay, it was a go. So do the research. Do the research of the area, really get to know it, really get to know the positive things and the negative things, and see if you can kind of, lessen the blow of the negative things. But you have to know everything about this area. It's going to come into place. Another thing that I would do to kind of kill that fear too is I went to see the competition. Now, one of the things I did early on was become an agent. At the time, you needed to be an agent to get on the MLS and see exactly what was going on. And I wanted to double check my numbers 10 times. So I became an agent, and that also allowed me to go into other properties just to look. So I found all of the properties that were for sale in the neighborhood, and I was able to go into these properties and just look at them. And I looked at what type of materials were used, what type of windows, what type of appliances, just whatever I can find. I would write down notes in there, and I would be able to see like what grade of material that I needed to buy. Now, of course, I would try and go a little over, but I knew that, for example, in the town of Elmsford, which is blue collar working neighborhood, this Thermidor refrigerator wouldn't necessarily work there. You know, I didn't have to do that. It's kind of like an overkill. That's not going to influence the price of the house. It wasn't going to sell it any quicker. So I kind of got to see that from seeing the competition and knowing that the other appliances were like KitchenAid or Whirlpool or something like that. So I got to kind of see what neighborhood it is. So with that fear of will it sell, you know, you have to do your research of the competition, of the neighborhood, and that will kind of quiet down that fear. And you'll know, listen, other things are selling, and you know that you're gonna have a great quality house, so you'll be able to sell it too. Fear number 2, this was my second big fear. Is my price too low? You know, will they accept my price, or will they laugh at me? You know, you just get nervous and stuff like that. So I kind of took a formula that I had from my previous experiences in the music business. So I was in the music business, and one of the people I got to meet and become real close was a older brother by the name of Clarence Avant, who I was blessed enough to talk to him several times and get a lot of advice from him. He was a great guy, and if you don't know him, go to Netflix and watch The Black Godfather. He was the real deal. R.I.P. Clarence. But one of the things he told me is that in negotiating, he said, if you'll know the price is high enough when your hand starts to shake, right? So I said, okay, you know. Now, what I did for real estate is I flipped it. So I said, you'll know the price is low enough when your hand starts to shake. If the person's gonna, you know, if you feel like you're not taking advantage of them, but you know what price as an investor you need to have. And it's a real thing. You know, you're not trying to take advantage of nobody or rob anybody. You know, in order for us to do what we got to do and make a profit, we need to buy it at, 65%, 70%. You know, I usually buy lower than that, but we need to buy it at a good price. So my first flip, it was actually like an estate situation where the family was selling it. What I did to quiet down that fear is I created a boss. So I went in there and I was like, okay, look, and I'm negotiating the price. And I said, well, look, I work for this company and I need to talk to my supervisor and get it approved. So that way it didn't sound like it was coming personally for me. So if he wouldn't necessarily laugh in my face, and I can kind of work with him to show that I'm on his side. I'm gonna try and do the best for him, which I really am, which is in my spirit. I like to help people, but I was just nervous. It was my first time doing it. So I was like, look, I have a boss, and I didn't say I have a boss. I said I just need to, get it approved. And then I called him and was like, look, this is what we can do. Can you work with it? So he would be like, well, can you see if you can do this? And then I'll come back and say, look, this is as far as I can get them to go. And they accepted the number. I'm sure I did a lot that didn't need to happen as far as conversations and just telling them, but it helped me work through that fear of asking too low. As flippers, as real estate investors, we have to get low costs for the house. We have to do that. And that was one of the way I was able to do that. Fear number 3, oh man, this was a big fear at the beginning. I felt like, I knew numbers, but one of the things I didn't know was, getting contractors and doing renovations and knowing the prices and the materials and everything like that. I was really afraid that somebody could take advantage of that, because you pay for what you don't know. Remember that one. So what I did to kind of help that fear is YouTube. I went on YouTube and I got so much help from YouTube. I love YouTube. Oh man, it's such a great thing for real estate investors, because I was able to kind of create my own scope of work, then go on YouTube and find out for a particular thing that needed to be fixed, like let's say a bathroom remodel or something. I can kind of get the materials that needed to be used, I can get prices on it, and I can get the time that it would take. So I was able to have a framework of what it would be before I spoke to contractors to, get certain prices. Now, after being in this for several years, I work with a team of contractors that I trust, and we have kind of like price lists, and it's really easy now because I know what to expect from them and they know what to expect from me. But at the beginning, and I didn't have that. So I had to really learn what it was and what it cost. So I tell all you guys, do your scope of work. If you don't know how to do a scope of work, that's fine. Google that too. Or you can click on the link below and come to the Rich Method and learn how to do a scope of work. You know, we teach that for free. That's not a problem. But once you're able to identify everything that's wrong, then you can learn how to remedy everything that's wrong. You're in good shoes. Because I'm not telling you to do it, you know. You don't have to do it, but you need to know what it is and how it's supposed to be done so you can tell if somebody's doing it wrong. You know, that's very, very important. So to get rid of that fear of being taken advantage of by contractors and vendors and things like that, do your research and fact check everything. If you get a scope of work from a contractor, you get a bid, you have a few different bids, research everything to see if it's what it needs to be and if it can help you. One thing I learned from a friend of mine is with your contractors and your vendors is keep a paper trail. Always have contracts and have them sign off, because there's some people out there that aren't doing the right thing and they may try and put liens on your house and everything, and you're going to need paperwork to back up that you did in fact pay them, or you held up your part of the bargain, or if you need to remind them what their part of the bargain is. So you need to always have that on paper. My fourth fear was finding contractors. Oh my gosh. When I first started, I had this contractor and he just like told me that he could do this and that, and then as I started seeing what he was doing, and like I said, I was doing my research on YouTube, I'm like, this guy does not know what he's talking about. He has a lot of tools, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I had to remove him from the job, and then I had to find somebody else. And I'm like, where do I find somebody else? So a friend of mine said, man, he said, go to Home Depot. I'm like, what? He said, go to Home Depot. And I always would see, you know, a lot of people out at Home Depot looking for day work and stuff like that. And I just had to go out there and try some folks and find some people. So I found two guys who were really cool, who worked with me for several houses actually, that they did a lot of stuff. We built a great system, but you may have to kiss a few frogs until you find somebody, but don't be scared. You just got to get out there and see. And at the beginning, you may spend a little extra money just kissing the wrong frogs, but it's all worth it, because when you find some people that can do the work and that are about their business and they say what they mean and mean what they say, you'll work with them forever, you know, as long as you hold up your part of it. So you have to go out there and don't be fearful. Just meet people and really see what they're about. And again, have everything on paper. I also realized I still have fears after all this time. And some of my fears now, they're like different though. It's crazy. So I'm about to buy a few houses now, and the prices are right and got the team in place. So why would I have a fear, right? Well, my fears have expanded into like global things. You know, this morning I was looking on TikTok and Instagram, and they talking about a war going on in the Middle East, and this happening here, this happening there. And I was like, oh man, well, if something happened, would people buy houses? Or if something did happen, where wouldn't they buy? You know, I started getting all crazy and think about that. But with that too, knowing that you're going to create a great product and that living, you know, places to live is something that's always going to be needed. So if you create a great product, people will buy it, and they will buy it at any interest rate. I promise you that. So you just have to make sure you do your research, you have a great neighborhood, and you create great product, and you'll be good to go. So those are just some of the fears you may encounter as a real estate investor. I mean, look, we are risking large sums of capital, and it can feel like gambling sometimes, even though it's really not. This is science to this thing. But what you have to do is just get enough information to where you knock that fear aside. Okay, fear means false evidence appearing real. Okay, you have to remember that and understand that. So once you get the evidence that it is real, then you will have no fear. So get all of the evidence and all of the research you need so that you can go through this and feel good about this. Because if you buy the house at the right price, you're going to make money and you're going to feel good about it. So thanks for checking out this video, and click this link below. And listen, join the free community and get tips and tricks and all these good lessons to help you multiply your wealth by flipping. I'm Rich Younglord, and I'm signing off. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Peace.